This is the Xvive U4 wireless in-ear monitor system. I reviewed this system 5 years ago, and it's still as rock solid as it was back then. But now, Xvive is releasing the U45. Is it just a refresh model update, or could there be more to it? We're going to find out. The U4 is probably my most recommended in-ear system. In fact, my band is currently using 5 of these with only a handful of interference issues over the last 4 years. With such a rock-solid system, why would Xvive want to release the U45? Of course, it's more than just a new skin. The big difference between these two systems is that the U45 uses the 5.8 GHz frequency band, whereas the U4 uses the 2.4 GHz band. If you've seen any of my other recent videos on wireless systems, like the Xvive A58 guitar wireless, you might already know why the 5.8 GHz band is an upgrade. If you don't, basically 2.4 GHz is your standard Wi-Fi band. Since practically everything is a smart device these days, you can have a lot of devices on that 2.4 GHz band. The more devices, the greater the probability of interference. While I've definitely seen some interference issues with the U4, it's been rare, and changing the channel typically fixes the issue. But since the U4 only has 6 channels, if you already have 6 U4s deployed, you're out of luck there and will have to start sharing channels. This is a big plus for the U45. Since the 5.8 GHz frequency isn't crowded, it's very unlikely you'll run into interference issues. But you are still limited to 6 channels. But that can't be the only difference, right? Let's take a closer look, starting with the transmitters. Both transmitters have the same shape and layout, making it really easy to plug right into a send on your mixer. The only downside to the form factor is in most mixers, you can't put 2 transmitters side by side. This can be easily remedied by using an XLR cable to relocate a transmitter. The silver material on both units feels the same, but the black material on the U45 feels a little softer to the touch than the gray on the U4. The U45 feels a little more premium. Both units have the same control layout with power, mute, and aux line switches. Both switches on the U4 feel a little bit stiffer. This can help prevent the unit from accidentally being turned on when it's in your bag on the way to a gig. Not speaking from experience. Then there's the channel wheel with the channel select button in the middle. The button on the U4 is a little clickier, but both feel like they take the same amount of force to push. The XR release button on the U45 is a little stiffer to push than the U4. Not really sure if that's a good or bad thing. The U45 does turn on a fraction of a second faster than the U4, and it also responds to channel changes a little faster. Both units have 2 battery indicator LEDs opposite the XLR side. They'll turn on for a second when the unit is first powered on, and then off if the battery level is greater than 30%. They stay on if the battery is between 29 and 11%, and flash on and off when the battery is at 10% or below. One nice update to the U45 is the USB-C charge port on the side instead of the micro USB on the U4. At least they're not using mini USB. I'm looking at you, Source Audio. The same goes for the receivers. The U45 has an upgraded USB-C port, whereas the U4 has a micro USB. Again, the receivers have the same shape and control layout with the power switch and headphone output on top, and the volume knob, channel indicator, channel button, power LED, and RF status LED on the front. You'll notice the power switch and headphone jack on the U45 are recessed. Not only does this give the U45 a sleeker look, it makes accidentally switching the unit on or off very difficult. The volume knob on the U45 is a little stiffer than U4. Again, this helps with accidentally adjusting the volume, something you really don't want to happen during a performance. The channel button on the U4 is a little clickier and protrudes out of the body just a little farther than the U45. Even though they have different color schemes, the materials feel identical. There isn't a time difference in turning on the receivers. You'll notice when the U45 receiver is turned on, the battery indicator will flash, indicating the battery level. However, I can't find anywhere in the documentation that indicates what the number of flashes means. Like the transmitters, the battery indicator will stay off above 30%, turn on between 29 and 11%, and flash when the battery is at 10% or below. One nice feature that's been added to the U45 is a scan function. Unfortunately, I have a pre-production model that does not have this functionality built into it. But if it's anything like their A58 system, it's a really easy to use feature. Just turn on the receiver, hold the channel button for a few seconds, and the unit will scan through the channels and find the channel with the least amount of interference. It'll make setting up at a gig just a touch faster. Another feature I didn't realize the transmitters and receivers on both units have is once the units are left on for about a minute, the channel will lock and not allow you to change it. The 5 years I've had the U4, I didn't know this feature existed. It's great at preventing accidental changes. If you want to change channel, just do a quick double press on the channel button, The number will flash and now the channel will change. It will lock again after about a minute. One feature that both these systems are missing is a stereo mode. This is obviously not possible due to the small size of the transmitter, but this could be a turnoff to some people. I prefer a stereo setup myself so I can hear my guitar and vocals in one ear and everyone else in the other. But when we play with a PA that isn't ours, I like to bring the U4 to either plug into their system, use an XLR splitter to split off a monitor input, or plug directly into the pedal board. So at least I can always hear my guitar no matter where I'm standing. Now onto the testing, starting with the frequency response. Both units fare very well between their specified 20 Hz and 20 kHz range when compared to the audio signal being directly recorded. The differences might look big on the chart, but take a look at the scale. The U45 does taper off on the low end a bit, but the majority of that is below 60 Hz, and you're not going to be able to hear much in that range from in-ear monitors, if anything. Both systems get a little wavy starting around 2 kHz with the U45 faring a little bit better, but again, it's very minimal and nothing to worry about. The specified range on both these systems is 90 feet. I did a line of sight test outside and would say both can handle 90 feet easily with nothing between the transmitter and receiver. In fact, I was able to get about 300 feet away and both units work great. Once I put myself between the transmitters and receivers, the performance difference of these units starts to differ. With the U4, I can get about 50 feet away before I start to hear dropouts, and around 70 feet or so, I did start getting some dropouts from the U45. Even though I got dropouts with the U45 all the way up to 300 feet away, the signal was still usable. That cannot be said with the U4. Once I was around 100 or so feet away, the dropouts made the unit unusable. Putting the transmitter and receiver back into direct line of sight fixed the dropouts. So if you ever have issues with the U4, just turn around. Even when placing walls between the transmitters and receivers, the U45 was definitely the clear winner. Not to say the U4's range is bad, we've been using it for years, but the U45 is certainly an upgrade here. But what good is the range if the latency or delay is awful? The latency I measured on the U4 is 4.5 milliseconds and the U45 is 5.2 milliseconds. While the U45 is worse, it's not bad at all. It's like standing about 6 feet away from a speaker. If you've seen any of my other wireless reviews, you know that the audio on this entire video has been delayed by 5.2 milliseconds. Did you notice? Next, we'll look at battery life. In my testing, transmitting, and playing music through in-ears, the batteries on both transmitters and receivers lasted around 10 hours. This is far beyond the 5-hour battery life that Xvive claims. Some differences start to show when it comes to the battery indicator lights. This is when the red light turns on for each unit, indicating the battery is at 30% or lower. The big difference is when the blinking red light starts. With the U4, you have hours before the unit dies, the U45, less than an hour. I prefer the indicator on the U4 because I know that if the red light is at least solid, I'll be able to get through a set and put it on the charger between sets. In the case of the U45, if the red light is on, definitely charge it. But who am I kidding? If I ever saw a red light on the U4, it went on the charger. The total charge time for all the units ranged from 1 hour and 57 minutes for the U4 transmitter to 2 hours and 31 minutes for the U45 receiver. The U45 falls short with the charge time, but not by much. With the battery life and charge times, we can estimate how long of a charge it would take to get 1 hour of playtime. The U4 receiver again wins here with just under 12 minutes, but the U45 receiver isn't much different with a touch over 15 minutes. This should be enough time between sets to get enough charge that will get you through the next set. Of course, it's best to make sure the units are charged before the show starts. Now all this really begs the question, who is the U45 for? It depends on what you need and what you already have. The U4 retails for $249.99 USD and the U45 is going to retail for $269.99. So only a $20 increase. In my opinion, that is reasonable. If you don't have wireless in your system and are looking between these two, I'd definitely go with the U45. If you already have the U4 and are not having any issues with it, I wouldn't recommend getting the U45 just yet. But if you tend to play larger venues and start to hit the end of the U4 range, or you tend to get a lot of interference, the U45 would probably be a good upgrade. Or if your band is outfitted with a set of U4s and you need more channels, the U45 could be used to add those channels. But hey, until next time, rock on.